You'd never guess that Rick Harrison, America's beloved Pawn Stars icon, a symbol of hard work and success, could be hiding something so dark. With his charm and sharp wit, he built a legacy that millions admired. But what if it was all a mask? What if behind the smiles and success was a secret so shocking, it could destroy everything you thought you knew about him? If this story shocked you and you're ready to uncover even more secrets about Rick Harrison, hit that like button, share this video, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We're watching closely. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss what's coming next. This is just the beginning. The truth always finds a way out, and things are about to get even darker. Stay tuned. What if the man America trusted most, the beloved pawn shop icon, the face of success and reliability, was hiding a dark secret all along? Behind the charm, the laughs, and the fame, what if there was something far more disturbing? Now, after years of silence, his own daughter is breaking her silence, stepping into the spotlight, ready to expose everything. Her testimony could shatter his legacy and change everything we thought we knew. What really happened behind those closed doors? Why was it hidden for so long? The truth is finally coming out, and you'll hear it here first. Beneath the glimmering lights of Las Vegas, a city built on high stakes and hidden truths, Rick Harrison rose to fame. With his signature smirk and dealmaker's instinct, he transformed a humble pawn shop into a global TV empire. Alongside his son Cory, bold, charismatic, and cut from the same cloth, the Harrisons built more than just a business. They built a brand, family image, a legacy. Each item they appraised carried a story, and every episode brought millions into their world. A world where the American dream felt just one deal away. But what if behind the gold and glory, there's a story even more valuable and far more dangerous? But even the brightest lights cast the darkest shadows. Beyond the cameras and classic collectibles, far from the polished counters of the pawn shop, there's a silence that no deal can cover. The silence of Rick Harrison's adopted daughter. Welcomed into the family after a high-profile charity gala, she was promised safety, love, and a fresh start. But behind the mansion walls, that promise may have crumbled into something far more disturbing. Was she truly saved? Or was it all just part of a carefully crafted facade? The truth behind her silence could unravel everything. She was hidden in plain sight, no name, no photos, no digital trace. Like a shadow in the home where she was meant to feel safe, Rick Harrison's adopted daughter lived a life erased from public view. But now, in a Clark County courtroom, the silence breaks. Her voice, once buried, is about to echo through headlines. What she brings isn't just a statement, it's a reckoning, a truth powerful enough to shake the foundation of the Harrison legacy. What really happened behind those closed doors? And how did we all miss it for so long? The answers are coming, and they won't be easy to ignore. The air in the Clark County Courthouse is thick, not just with anticipation, but with the weight of secrets long buried. Every eye follows her as she rises, no longer invisible, no longer silent. She is not the lost daughter of a reality TV icon, not anymore. Today, she's a force, a reckoning. Her steps are steady, each one echoing like a drumbeat in a room holding its breath. She takes the stand, meets the gaze of her father, Rick Harrison, without a flicker of fear. Then, in a voice calm but cutting, she begins to speak. And with each word, the perfect facade begins to crack. They took turns telling me. 5 words, spoken with no tremble, no tears, just the kind of calm that only comes from surviving the unimaginable. The courtroom didn't breathe. The judge didn't blink. The Harrisons didn't move. With those words, the illusion shattered. Gone was the warm, trustworthy empire Rick Harrison had cultivated for over a decade. In its place stood a chilling reality, one that no scripted episode, no camera edit, could soften. Her story wasn't just testimony. It was a reckoning, a mirror held up to the face of fame, showing every crack, every lie, every wound the world refused to see until now. Her voice didn't waver, it froze the room. She spoke not with emotion, but with precision, like each word had been etched into her bones long ago. 10 years old, she began. He brought me home like I was something he'd won. The courtroom held its breath. What followed wasn't just a testimony. It was a slow unraveling of a carefully guarded lie. He called it family love, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. But it was control. It was fear. Every eye locked on her. Every illusion of the Harrison legacy melting away, one brutal truth at a time. She stripped away the polished image with every word. Rick, once a symbol of charm and wisdom, revealed as a man twisted by power behind closed doors. Cory, the brother she once looked to for safety, revealed as worse, colder, crueler. They didn't just hurt me, she said. They erased me. Her voice never cracked. But the courtroom did. The prosecution followed with evidence too disturbing to deny. Photos, medical reports, time-stamped messages. The silence that followed wasn't just shock. It was the sound of a nation's illusion shattering, and for the first time, the Harrisons couldn't smile their way out of it. The investigators' hearts pounded as they pried open the hidden vault, expecting to find riches, artifacts, or some treasure trove of pawned history. Instead, they found a labyrinth of secrets. Inside, behind the reinforced walls and biometric locks, were rows of encrypted hard drives, a digital prison of files that could no longer be ignored. Every single one meticulously locked away, guarded by layers of security only the most careful, most calculating minds could have put in place. What was so valuable, so dangerous? The answer was clear in the chilling silence of the room. The truth had been buried for years, waiting to be unearthed. And now it was more than just evidence. It was the key to unlocking the darkest corners of the Harrison Empire. The forensics team uncovered a chilling discovery: hidden cameras in every corner of Rick's mansion, including one in the mirror of her private bathroom. Every private moment, every intimate space had been watched and recorded. The mansion, once a supposed sanctuary, was revealed to be a prison, its walls constantly watching, trapping her in a nightmare no one knew existed. The folders labeled "Family Time" contained something far worse than anyone could have imagined. Inside were videos not of family bonding, but of horrifying abuse, carefully documented over years. Each clip showed moments of manipulation and control, with Rick and Cory starring as the orchestrators of this nightmare. What was supposed to be a loving family was, in truth, a twisted facade hiding a dark, insidious truth. The prosecutor's voice cracked as they read aloud from the journals. The room gripped in a suffocating silence. Each entry painted a picture of unimaginable horror, the chilling details aligning with the footage from the hidden cameras. One journal entry stood out above the rest. March 12th, Rick came. He said Cory would come later. When I tried to scream, he said the house was soundproof. I believed him. The weight of those words hit like a freight train, revealing a nightmare kept in secret for years. The truth was undeniable now. The Harrisons had woven a web of manipulation and abuse, and no one could look away. Handwriting experts confirmed what no one dared to question. The journals were authentic, each page a silent scream for help. With this, the nightmare began to unravel. The prosecution introduced even more damning evidence: text messages and emails from Rick and Cory's phones, One message, sent just 2 days after the journal entry, sent a chilling wave through the courtroom. It read, "She's acting up again. Maybe it's time to remind her who raised her." The words were not just cruel. They revealed the horrifying control and manipulation that had kept her trapped for years. The truth was now undeniable. The Harrisons' carefully constructed world was a facade hiding a dark, twisted reality. Another message, this time from Cory, sent at 2:14 a.m., sent a cold shiver through the courtroom. "It's my turn tonight." These weren't just messages. They were weapons, each one dismantling the once glorious image of Rick and Cory Harrison. The courtroom grew deathly quiet as a voicemail from Rick was played, his chilling voice echoing, "You're lucky to be living here without me. You'd be trash in the system." It wasn't just a threat. It was a brutal assertion of control, a reminder that Rick's reputation wasn't just a shield. It was a weapon, one that kept everyone around him in fear, unable to challenge his power. The truth, as it often does, was darker than anyone could have imagined. Gloria Mendoza, the family's former housekeeper, took the stand, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. Her voice trembled as she recounted the horrifying moment she had stumbled upon Rick, shirtless, standing on the girl's bed. The memory choked her, and she described the murderous look in Rick's eyes, full of malice, as if he were ready to kill her for witnessing something she wasn't supposed to see. Terrified, she quit that very day. But it wasn't until now, with the weight of the truth pressing down on her, that she found the courage to speak out against the powerful man who had terrorized so many. Then came Brett Cummings, a delivery driver whose evidence would leave the courtroom in stunned silence. He had unknowingly captured an accidental recording on his phone while passing through the mansion's walls. The voice on the recording, desperate and pleading, echoed through the courtroom, each word slicing through the tension like a knife. "Please don't say any more." The haunting plea resonated in the souls of all present, a chilling reminder of the girl's torment. But perhaps the most shocking discovery came from an unexpected source. A letter found buried in an old desk in Rick's storage room. It was written by Rick's father, Richard Benjamin Harrison, the beloved patriarch of Pawn Stars. The letter, never sent to anyone, simply read, "To anyone who finds this letter." In the letter, Richard Benjamin Harrison wrote, "There is something sick in this house. I can't face it any longer. May God forgive me if I have turned a blind eye for too long." These weren't just words. They were a final, haunting confession, undeniable proof that the darkness within the Harrison family had been allowed to fester, ignored by all who chose silence. Yet despite everything, the young woman remained resolute. For 4 hours, she testified, her voice unwavering, her resolve unbroken. She described being forced to call their twisted abuse family love, of nights spent curled up, praying for an escape. "They took everything," she said, her eyes locking with the jury. "But they didn't take my voice, and now I'm using it." It wasn't just testimony. It was a declaration, a reckoning. She was no longer a victim. She had transformed into a warrior. At the defense table, Rick's head hung low, his hands trembling with fear he had never known. Cory sat seething, his face flushed with rage, on the brink of exploding. But the room held its breath. No one dared lift their eyes, for the woman they had tried so hard to silence now commanded the space with a power far louder than words. The case's impact wasn't limited to the courtroom. Her testimony exploded across the digital world, as hashtags like Justice for Her and Pawn Stars Exposed flooded social media. Each post was a ripple, part of a much larger reckoning. Stories from other survivors, once too afraid to speak, began pouring in, finding strength in her courage. She had given them a voice, and now, together, they would make sure the world heard them. News outlets replayed her words on a loop, each broadcast amplifying the significance of that one statement. a statement that had become a symbol of long-buried truths finally emerging. The world, once captivated by Rick and Cory Harrison's carefully crafted facade, now turned its gaze with disgust and disbelief. But for the young woman, this wasn't about revenge. It was about liberation. She had torn down the invisible cage that had confined her for so long, and the shattered pieces of that prison were now toppling the entire Harrison empire. The fire of her testimony still burned, slowly, steadily, and inexorably. With every passing day, it consumed the carefully constructed illusions of the Harrison family, turning them to ash, one truth at a time. The Clark County Courthouse had transformed into a battlefield, where truth and deception collided with each passing moment. The fall of a television dynasty was unfolding before the world's eyes. Cory Harrison, once the proud face of Pawn Stars, now walked to the witness stand, his every step heavy with the weight of impending ruin. As he sat down, a suffocating silence fell over the room. The audience, holding their breath, waited for him to offer some defense that could salvage the remnants of his family's shattered legacy. But what followed was not just the downfall of one man. It was the complete unraveling of a family once adored as a symbol of the American dream. Cory, once confident and charismatic, now appeared like a cornered animal, desperate, panicked, with nowhere left to run. His bravado had crumbled, replaced by the undeniable terror of someone who realized no amount of fame or fortune could shield him from the truth closing in. The prosecutor, unyielding and incisive, pressed Cory without mercy. "Do you deny your involvement in the abuse of your adoptive sister?" Her voice cut through the silence of the courtroom like a blade. Cory stiffened, his lips pressing into a thin line, but his eyes betrayed him, flickering with something far from confidence. "Absolutely not," he said, his words shaky. "These accusations are lies, delusions from someone trying to destroy my family." But there was no mistaking the quiver in his voice, the mask he had worn for years crumbling before the eyes of everyone in the room. The prosecutor didn't flinch. She slid a piece of paper across the table, drawing every gaze in the courtroom. It was a page from the journal, found in Cory's own home. The handwriting was messy, hurried, as if penned in a moment of panic. The words were damning. "I think we've gone too far. I see her face in my dreams, and I feel nothing, just afraid she'll speak out." The courtroom went deathly silent. Cory's face drained of color as the weight of the truth settled over him. There was no hiding anymore. The walls of his lies had finally crumbled. The courtroom was electric with tension as Cory, face red with anger, erupted, shouting, "That's not me! You're twisting everything. She's crazy, always lying. We gave her a life she never would have had." His outburst was a desperate attempt to deny the truth, but it only exposed the weight of his guilt. The room was filled with shock and disbelief as his words cut through the silence. The judge slammed the gavel down, but Cory, shaking with emotion, spat, "You don't know anything about our family. She ruined everything." His words shattered the final illusion of the Harrison family's perfect image, laying bare the horrific reality. Rick Harrison's fall was swift and unforgiving. Once a king in the media world, he now sat at the defense table, a broken man. His hands trembled as they gripped the table, no longer the strong, confident hands that once ruled Pawn Stars. In the end, he chose silence, not as a tactic, but because the weight of his collapse was too much to bear. In Clark County Jail, he was no longer the TV star, just another faceless inmate, locked away in a cold concrete cell. His empire had crumbled, leaving only a waking nightmare and the haunting reality of his actions. Rick Harrison's downfall in prison was swift and harrowing. Refusing food, his body grew weaker with each passing day. He spent hours motionless, staring at the cold concrete wall, his once sharp mind now unraveling in the oppressive silence of his cell. He muttered to himself, speaking of voices no one else could hear, the mocking laughter of an invisible crowd and whispers of unseen enemies closing in. In a moment of frantic delusion, he screamed at a guard, his voice filled with unhinged fury. "They're making it all up. It's all for money. They want to destroy me." But no one responded. In prison, Rick's name meant nothing. The walls closed in, leaving him a mere shadow of the man he once was. After an inmate learned of Rick's crimes and threatened him with a fate worse than anything the justice system could provide, he was moved to solitary confinement. Now he exists in complete isolation, cut off from the world, with only the sound of his own footsteps echoing in the cold, sterile cell. His mind, once sharp, is now a battlefield, haunted by the weight of his past, suffocating under the truths he can no longer escape. Each moment in that cell is a reminder that no matter how far he ran, the darkness would always catch up. The collapse of the Harrison family didn't end in the courtroom or behind bars. It spread like an earthquake, its shockwaves reverberating through every piece of their empire. What was once built on charm and success now lies in ruins. The tremors of their downfall have torn apart their family, leaving only shattered remnants of the illusion they once lived. Adam, Cory's half-brother, who had long kept out of the public eye, shocked everyone by severing all ties with his family. In a statement that hit like a thunderclap, he declared, "I am disgusted and heartbroken by what has come to light. I haven't spoken to Rick or Cory in over 7 years, and now I know I was right to walk away. My heart goes out to the victims." His words were a gut punch, a final, irreversible cut that tore apart what was left of the fractured Harrison family. Adam's declaration wasn't just an announcement. It was the final nail in the coffin of a family once seen as a symbol of success, now exposed in its darkest truth. It was the painful act of a man who, long before the world knew the horrors, had already distanced himself from the poison at its core. His decision severed the last lifeline, showing the world that no one, not even family, could escape the weight of these revelations. Jo and Harrison, Rick's mother, remained eerily silent throughout the entire ordeal, avoiding both testimony and press inquiries. Her silence only deepened the public's suspicion. However, a close source revealed a chilling detail. Jo had once confided in a friend, whispering in a vulnerable moment, "I knew something was wrong, but I was too afraid to face it." Those words, meant as a quiet confession, became a damning admission. Her silence wasn't seen as innocence but complicity, a tacit acceptance of the horrors behind closed doors. As the revelations continued, former employees of the Harrison family began to speak out, no longer bound by fear. Their testimonies painted a terrifying picture of manipulation, control, and intimidation. They described whispered threats and a constant atmosphere of unease within the Harrison estate. The family's empire hadn't just been built on hard work. It had been constructed on a foundation of terror, silencing anyone who might speak the truth. One longtime pawn shop employee, who had remained silent for years, finally spoke out, his voice trembling with fear as he described Rick's oppressive reign. "Rick was like a king. If you questioned anything, you disappeared. He controlled everything, the way we spoke, even how we looked at the camera." His words revealed the suffocating control Rick exerted over his employees, transforming the pawn shop into a prison of sorts, where every action, every word was dictated by his will. The consequences for defying him were immediate and severe. A former family friend also shared a haunting memory, one that now seemed painfully obvious but had been overlooked for far too long. The girl always sat alone in the corner, never saying a word. "I thought she was just shy, but now I realized she was screaming for help through her eyes." The friend's voice cracked with regret as they remembered the young woman. a child trapped in silence, her pain visible to anyone who cared to look. It was too late to recognize it then, but now, with the truth exposed, they couldn't ignore the guilt that came with failing to see it sooner. The scattered pieces of the Harrison family's empire finally came together, revealing a dark reality. A family consumed by power, secrecy, and greed. The once thriving gold and silver pawn shop, once a must-visit for tourists, now stood abandoned, its doors locked, and its vibrant energy faded into silence. The gleaming signs that had drawn people from around the world were stripped away, leaving behind a hollow shell of its former self. The employees who had dedicated years to the shop were left in disbelief, their lives now uncertain as the empire they had worked for collapsed in a bold, immediate decision. The History Channel pulled Pawn Stars from its programming, effectively erasing the show from the public's view. The once iconic reality TV series, a staple of American television, now existed only in reruns, its legacy forever tainted. The shine of fame and fortune that had once been so tightly associated with the Harrison name had crumbled, leaving behind only the ruins of a carefully constructed facade. Redemption seemed out of reach and revival impossible. Las Vegas, once proud of Rick Harrison, now turned its back on him. Businesses quickly removed photos of the Harrison family, once cherished, now seen as stains. Outrage swept the city, with victim advocacy groups demanding justice. Justice for her, no mercy for the monsters. Their signs read, "The Harrison family's fall was swift and irreversible." Once icons, Rick and Cory were now pariahs, their legacy destroyed beyond repair. Social media exploded with stories from abuse survivors, many finding strength in the courage of the adopted daughter who spoke out. One tweet read, "She is our voice, breaking the silence we were too afraid to shatter." The Harrison family's downfall became more than just a lawsuit. It was a reckoning, revealing how power can shield even the darkest crimes. From the ruins of their empire, the daughter emerged not as a victim, but as a torchbearer for truth. Her voice became a symbol of justice, sparking change and inspiring others to find the courage to speak out. Social media has exploded with stories from abuse survivors, many drawing strength from the unshakable courage of the adopted daughter. Her bravery has given a voice to those long silenced. One user tweeted, "She is our voice, breaking the silence we were too afraid to shatter." The fall of the Harrison family is no longer just a lawsuit. It's a profound reckoning, a reminder that no amount of reputation or power can shield the darkest truths. Rising from the ashes of an empire built on illusion, the adopted daughter stands tall. No longer a victim, she is now a torchbearer for truth, forcing the world to confront the justice she has ignited, shedding light on the darkness once hidden behind fame and fortune. Her testimony was a stone cast into still waters, sending ripples far beyond the courtroom and sparking a global conversation about abuse in powerful families. The case stripped away the false trust placed in reputations, forcing society to confront its blind reverence for status over integrity. It was a stark reminder that truth, no matter how deeply buried, has the power to dismantle even the most fortified walls of deceit. Her courage has redefined justice. It's no longer just about courtroom verdicts. It's about listening to, believing, and amplifying the quietest voices among us. The fight for justice extends beyond the legal process. It's about collective action, lifting those who have been silenced, and remembering that even the smallest truth can ignite a revolution of change. The young woman, with her extraordinary courage, transformed her pain into purpose, lighting a path for other survivors and shaking the world to its core. The world is waking up, but we must remember, fame can never obscure the darkness of crime. Her story is more than just a personal victory. It is a clarion call for action, demanding change so that no one ever has to suffer in silence again. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next video. Let's keep pushing for justice together, one voice at a time.